Good afternoon, and welcome to the Family Law Services Pathways to a Healthy Separation. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Manitoba Bar Association, the Law Society of Manitoba, and the University of Manitoba Faculty of Law. On behalf of my fellow panel members, we would like to acknowledge that we are living and working on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Assininu, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge that northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. With respect to the treaties that were made on these territories, we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, the role of our profession in causing those harms, and we dedicate ourselves as council and as treaty peoples to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. If you have any questions during the presentation today, please enter your questions into our Q&A chat. We'll do our best to answer them at the end of our presentations. Today's presentation will be recorded and posted on Manitoba Access to Justice, that's MB Access to Justice, one word, .ca in 2 to 3 weeks. Family breakups are personally, financially, and legally traumatic events. We're all familiar with the stories of former spouses having intimate details of their lives dissected in court. The simple truth is that this is not required. There are a number of options open to those who are seeking separations and divorce, which are intended to reduce the trauma and cost. Our panel today will be providing an overview of their organizations and what they can do to assist people in this difficult time. Our panel members. Nina Holatova graduated from law school in 2019 and completed her articling term at Legal Aid in Dauphin, focusing primarily in the area of family law. Following her call to the bar in 2020, Nina joined a private firm where she continued to represent clients in a range of family law matters, as well as wills and estates, real estate, and civil litigation. Today, Nina is a lawyer and program coordinator at Community Legal Education Association and delivers webinars across the province on topics such as family law and elder abuse. Michael Williams is the Director of Resolution Support Programs at the Family Resolution Service, a branch within the Courts Division of Manitoba Justice. Michael has a BA Advanced degree in psychology and graduated with a law degree from the University of Manitoba in 1988. He has practiced in the area of family law since 1989 and served on the executive of the Manitoba Bar Association Family Law subsection for a decade while he was in private practice specializing in child protection law. He joined Manitoba Justice in 2005 to launch the newly created Child Support Services as the Senior Support Determination Officer. He is currently engaged in several initiatives, including enhancing court navigation for self-represented litigants, assisting in the delivery of new pilot program focusing on parenting, coaching, mediation, comprehensive mediation, and arbitration for Manitobans. Peter Kingsley, myself, received my law degree from the University of Manitoba in 1994. I articled with Legal Aid Manitoba in Winnipeg, and after my call to the bar, became a staff attorney in Dauphin, Manitoba. Practiced primarily in criminal and youth law, and I've appeared at all levels of court in Manitoba. 2009, I was appointed as the acting area director for the Parkland region. In 2011, moved back to Winnipeg as a senior area director for Legal Aid Manitoba. In 2021, I was appointed the executive director for Legal Aid. I'm a life council member of the Manitoba Bar Association and was the treasurer of the MBA from 2015 to 2021. I was appointed King's Counsel in 2019. I'm currently the Western Canada representative to the Association of Legal Aid Plans of Canada and sit on various national and provincial committees. I'm married with 2 adult children. At this time, I'd like to ask Nina to lead off with her presentation.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction. Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here today. As Peter said, my name is Nina, and I am a lawyer and program coordinator at the Community Legal Education Association, also known as CLEA, and I'm so excited to be here today to tell you about all of the resources that we have to offer. For those of you who may not be familiar with CLEA, we are a nonprofit charitable organization, and our mission statement is unknown rights are not rights at all. We have been working to improve access to justice by providing education, information, and other resources to Manitobans about their rights and the law, and we have been doing this since 1984. Family law issues in particular are something that can be very difficult to navigate. Unfortunately, separation and divorce are just an unavoidable reality of life. And for many people, when they're going through a separation, it's their very first point of contact with the formal legal system. This, of course, can be quite intimidating and it comes with a lot of challenges. As a lot of us know, separation and divorce are an emotionally taxing experience, and interacting with the legal system can add stress for a lot of people. The legal process often requires discussing intimate and difficult aspects of the relationship, which can really intensify these feelings. Divorce proceedings can also be very time consuming and expensive, especially if they involve disputes over child custody or support or division of assets. And things like legal fees, court costs, and time away from work can add to that financial strain. Not everyone can afford a lawyer, and some people unfortunately lack access to legal aid or other support resources. And for those who choose to self represent, understanding and navigating the family law system on their own can be quite overwhelming. On top of that, the legal system also has its own language, and understanding the implications of legal terms and procedures can be difficult without guidance for those who have never encountered the legal system before. Many people feel that they lack the adequate knowledge or are overwhelmed by just the volume of information that they need to manage. So, CLIA's resources, which is what I'm going to tell you all a little bit more about, really aim to address some of these barriers to accessing the justice system when it comes to family law issues. As I said, our mission statement is unknown rights are not rights at all. So, our legal resources, first and foremost, offer free access to legal information, which in a lot of ways can make people feel more in control and less anxious about the unknown. Knowing what to expect, even if the situation is challenging, can be calming and even empowering. Our services also offer individuals a way to learn about the law and their rights for free, which can be helpful not only for those who are unable to afford a lawyer or who are self representing, but also people who do end up retaining counsel. A lot of the time, and I speak from experience as a private bar family lawyer myself, when someone goes to see a family lawyer for the first time, they might very well be going in completely blind with very minimal understanding of the law and the process. So being able to access legal information about family law beforehand as well as throughout the process can really help clients manage their expectations, and plan accordingly. And it also means that valuable time with the lawyer can be used to actually um, progress the legal matter rather than spending time asking sort of basic questions about law and procedure. Lastly, our resources are in plain language, which breaks down complex legal terminology and processes into simple, easy to understand language, which reduces confusion and helps people feel more confident in their understanding of the law. So now I'll talk a little bit more specifically about the resources and services that we do offer. Excuse me. And information about all of these can be found on our website, which is communitylegal.mb.ca. So our services are offered in several formats. We have publications, we have FAQs, videos, an online course, and we also have a law phone-in and lawyer referral program at CLIA. I'll start with talking about our publications. So we do have publications across a number of different areas of the law, but I'll just focus on our family law ones for the purposes of today's presentation. We do have a couple of publications that you have to pay for, but the vast majority of our publications are completely free. So starting off with the free ones, We have 4 family law fact sheets that offer general information on basic family law principles. The topics of these fact sheets are separation and divorce, parenting arrangements, child support, and spousal support. These are all in plain language. And for the fact sheets on parenting arrangements and child support, we do also have those available in French, thanks to Pro Bono Students Canada. And the other 2 are going to be translated later this year as well. We also have a booklet called Family Law for Children, and that's available in both English and French as well. This came to be when we noticed that there was virtually nothing out there to explain the family law process to children, so we decided to fill the gap with funding by Justice Canada. The first edition came out in 2006, and we revised it again in 2021. And Justice Canada also came out with a booklet called What Happens Next, which is based on CLIA's Family Law for Children booklet. For single parents, we have a brochure called Legal Tips for Single Parents, once again offered in both English and French. This came about in 2005 when CLIA was approached by a public health nurse who wanted a publication she could give to her patients, a lot of whom were young single parents. It was produced in-house, translated once again by PBSC, and it was last revised in 2021. For self-represented litigants, we have an uncontested divorce guide. This one is a paid publication, which is available for $30, and it was last revised in 2024. So you can see that we take a lot of efforts to make sure that our publications are as up to date as possible as the law changes and as procedure changes. So our uncontested divorce guide was written for married spouses who want to get an uncontested divorce and who have settled all other legal issues between themselves. So things like parenting arrangements, support, and property division. It aims to help people who want to get a divorce without needing to retain a lawyer. And it essentially contains explanations about divorce laws, as well as step-by-step instructions about how to get an uncontested affidavit divorce in Manitoba. We do also have a frequently asked questions section on our website, which again covers many areas of the law, including family law. There are sections on corollary relief like child support and parenting arrangements, but also a lot of questions on things like procedure, forms, and a lot more. And basically, these are meant to provide answers to questions that we see most commonly through our law phone-in program. And anyone can access and view these at any time. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about CLIA's videos, which are really, I think, an excellent place to start for someone who wants to get a general overview of family law, as well as to delve into some more specific topics if you are interested. So first of all, we have a series of videos on family law in Manitoba, which is in 3 parts. The first part is all about options upon separation, meeting with a lawyer, and going to court. So really for someone who is going through those initial steps of considering a separation or divorce, and they're not sure maybe what their options are, what it looks like when you're first trying to get a lawyer, and sort of those initial steps through the court. The second part is about children, parenting arrangements, and child support. And the third part covers spousal support, property, property division, and protection orders. So the latter 2 videos are more about substantive law. We do also have a variety of recorded webinars. We offer webinars every spring and fall at CLIA, and we are lucky enough to have a lot of those recorded for our video bank. And so some of our family law videos include an overview of family law that was presented by Len Fishman, and then a number of videos on more specific topics like parenting arrangements with Leah Unruh, child and spousal support, which was presented by Andrea Dodgson. We had a webinar on collaborative practice, mediation, and alternative dispute resolution with Norm Usum, and another one on triage court, also with Norm Usum. And we also had a webinar about variations to final orders in family law, which was presented by Tanya Keller. We do also have currently an ongoing Victims of Intimate Partner Violence project, which is spearheaded by our amazing lawyer, Lori Calhoun. And with that, we have a whole bunch of other recorded webinars, including parenting cases involving intimate partner violence, a video about protection orders in Manitoba, mediation cases with intimate partner violence, and an introduction to legal aid. So a lot of family lawyers are dealing with cases involving intimate partner violence. There has been a lot more talk about trauma-informed lawyering, and these videos are really a good place to start when it comes to that. Again, we have videos on many other topics beyond family law, and I do highly encourage you to check those out because it's not often that you get this kind of opportunity to learn from highly experienced and qualified lawyers in your field. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about our online course. This is something that maybe not as many people are aware of, but we do have a training course on our website, which is mainly aimed at service providers or community legal intermediaries, so people who are dealing with clients day to day who might be facing various legal issues, but it is also just available for anyone who is interested. So there are 9 modules on various areas of the law, and module 4 is about family law. You do have to make an account to do the online course, but again, it's totally free. And once you make that account, then you can pick and choose and take whichever modules it is that you're interested in. The family law module covers 6 topics. And those topics are separation, divorce, parenting arrangements, child support, spousal support, and property division. Each topic has text that you can read as well as a video to watch for additional context. And then there is a quiz at the end of each section to make sure that you are understanding and taking away the main concepts. The contents of the online course are fairly basic, so it's a great place to start for someone who is just sort of starting to learn about a specific area of the law and wants kind of a broad overview. Lastly, I'm going to tell you about our law phone-in and lawyer referral program. So essentially the way that it works is we have a phone line and an email address where anyone can reach out to get legal information and summary advice about their legal issues. We have 2 amazing lawyers on staff who answer these calls and emails, and they mainly assist people without lawyers and self-reps. In addition to providing legal information and summary advice, they can also explain procedure, how to fill out forms and documents, and give referrals to other agencies and organizations when appropriate. About 1/3 of all calls and emails that we get at Law Phone-In are family law related. And over the last few years, especially, we have seen a huge increase in calls from self-reps. So we've had at this point, over 7,200 calls so far in 2024. On average, we get about 9,000 calls and emails annually. And so far this year, 784 of those calls have been self-reps who needed assistance with things like procedure, forms, or advice. Through our program, we do also offer lawyer referrals. We have about 130 lawyers on our panel who have agreed to provide a free consultation up to 30 minutes. After that, the client can hire the lawyer at a fee to be arranged between the lawyer and the client. The idea is that clients should use this time to get an idea as to whether they feel comfortable with that lawyer. However, there is currently sort of a shortage of family lawyers, especially those taking legal aid. So referrals in this area can be a little tricky. We do also do our very best to refer only clients that we think would be a good fit and those who we think are actually likely to retain the lawyer after the consultation. So we really do try to avoid inappropriate referrals. With that being said, if there are any legal practitioners, any lawyers here that would like to be added to our lawyer referral panel, we have information about that on our website. And in particular, for new lawyers, it's a great way to get new clients and get work. We have also been lucky enough to have some students from Pro Bono Students Canada volunteering through our Law Phone-In program, which has been great. I've been supervising these students over the last couple of years, and because my background is in family law, the students have been focusing on taking primarily family law related calls. So with that, it's sort of our hope that they're going to get exposure to family law in a more in-depth way. So their learning experience will be better by sort of getting them to delve more into one area of the law, but also that it would perhaps spark an interest for them in the area of family law. They might see that the need is there. And, with that, hopefully we might get some fresh new lawyers in the family law bar in the next few years. Okay, so that about wraps up CLIA's resources. Keep in mind that we do have a very small staff of only 5 people with only 2 lawyers at Law Phone-In. So we do encourage people as much as possible to visit our website, our publications and videos, and our other online resources. I do hope that this has been helpful to everyone here today, whether you use our resources yourself or you are referring clients to our resources. I do really highly recommend that everyone takes a look at our website and the resources that we have to offer. I personally used them all the time before I worked at CLIA, and I continue to use them. So once again, that's communitylegal.mb.ca if you are interested. And with that being said, I think I'm coming up on my 20 minutes. So thank you everyone for listening, and I will pass it over to Michael to talk about the Family Resolution Service.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. This afternoon, I have quite a bit of information. I do have a very short PowerPoint presentation, which quite frankly, I am not going to use extensively. We can move to slide 2, please. So we have a brief introduction for those who may not be familiar with some of the basic concepts in law in terms of both sets of federal and provincial legislation that could impact on a family. I'm going to allow people the time to read that at their convenience. We are going to be distributing the PowerPoints at some point in the next couple of weeks. So basic introduction to some concepts in terms of dual sets of law in Canada. Next slide, please. That's slide 3. Service delivery in Canada is delivered through a number of different acts. And provincially, I've set out some of the particular acts that apply to the Family Resolution Service. And again, the Family Resolution Service provides services in a wraparound environment. And I'm going to give you a bit of a history later, but it is a service that's designed to use all the provincial legislation that's available, including the federal legislation, the Divorce Act, to provide a holistic wraparound service to clients. We access and can provide services not for provincial legislation, international legislation and conventions, the Hague Conventions, and we're certainly intimately familiar with the Court of King's Bench rules for navigating through the court process should that be necessary. And again, the thrust of the Family Resolution Service is to avoid, if at all possible, the use of the court system. And a bit of history briefly now, a little segue. It's important to realize that a service such as ours doesn't just develop and come into existence overnight. It's a long process of 5 or 10 years in which a service is created. In this particular case, we reflect efforts that were made going back to 2014, 2015 by the deputy ministers of the 4 Western provinces to look at and explore the options available for mandatory mediation. That particular initiative led to a lot of exchange of information before the 4 Western provinces. Some ideas were discussed, but there was really no initial traction to that particular initiative. I happened to be the Manitoba representative on that particular group, but it was useful to understand how each jurisdiction across Western Canada was going to be looking at and addressing the need of the public for an alternative to the court process. Real traction started in 2017 with the Manitoba Court of Appeal decision that came out on Dunford and Birnbaum, where the court basically said there has to be a better way to deal with family law issues. It's just not particularly suited to have litigation involving families. That spawned into the same year the Minister of Justice proceeding to commission a report, and a group of lawyers, judges, and academics spent about 9 months coming up with a report. That report came out in 2018, recommended a new model, and the result of that report was legislation, Bill 9 that came out in 2019. Now, Schedule A to that piece of legislation had a new model. It was not adopted. It provided for a form of mandatory mediation in most circumstances. There's exceptions for people who were making petitions for divorce under the Divorce Act. And there's some other exceptions, but for the general rule was, or the conception was, hey, let's stream everyone through a mandatory mediation process. And if they can't resolve their issues, we even have a arbitration adjudication model at the end, so people would never actually have to proceed to court in most circumstances. That particular initiative, the particular schedule was assented to in 2019, but it was never actually proclaimed. And so in 2020, a new initiative was attempted, and in that conception, government took a number of pre-existing organizations, business units within justice, and combined them together and came up with a new model. And at the time, I was the director of the Child Support Service. We had the Maintenance Enforcement Program. We had Family Conciliation, who do the court evaluations. And we had some assistance from our Victim Services and Prosecutions, and we came up with a new model. And that model basically was a non-mandatory system. People could choose whether or not to be part of the system, but we came up with a new way of providing services. It's a single window approach where people can simply go through our Get Guidance portal. You can liken it to a front door. Come in the front door, you receive wraparound services. So you complete an intake form, give us a bit of background information, and then we do a family violence, intimate partner violence screening. And if suitable, we can provide you with a number of different services. And so I'm here to sort of talk about what those services are. So I will skip ahead from slide 3 and walk to potentially, we'll go as far as, because we have limited on time today, slide 7. And again, you'll have the opportunity to see some of these slides in the future when we distribute them to the participants to this particular seminar. So we came up with a bunch of ideas, and I've sort of given you a sense as to what we were thinking of doing. We really wanted a single window model. We wanted everyone to have wraparound service. We did not want them to go to court. We wanted to make sure that we had enough services available to people so they would not have to actually even contemplate going to court. So we got to the position in 2020 where we were looking at how are we best going to accomplish our goals, and with a lot of assistance from various and diverse groups who gave us many, many ideas, we came up with what we presently have, which is the service that we're currently offering, and that is actually shown on the next slide, slide 8. That particular list shows what we're actually currently doing. So we do the screening for the intimate partner family violence issues. Parties can, again, pick and choose from us what they want to do. We're not mandating. We don't tell people what they have to do. They can pick from a menu of options. So many of our clients, for example, will say, you know what, I've got an arrangement. I've worked out parenting arrangements with the other parent. We're just simply wanting the service to produce an enforceable child support decision. The child support service can make a calculation decision. No need to go to court for an enforceable decision or order. It's simply done by the service, and it's enforceable by our maintenance enforcement program unit. But often parties present to us with issues that really cut close to home, certainly when they're involving children. And so we have extensive programming and issues that can be resolved with our new initiatives. And those new initiatives that we're working on now, and we've rolled out some of them even as recently as a couple of months ago, we're able to provide a number of different aspects, especially on children. We can provide services relating to parenting coaching. We can provide parenting arrangement mediation. We can provide comprehensive mediation involving financial issues. We can also offer now family arbitration. And we do that by a triage system where we take a look at the intake forms and what people's needs are. We then decide the appropriate way in which those services can be delivered. Some we can do in-house. Others we use one of our partners who we fund, mediation services, who will do the actual mediation work. And we also have arbitration capacity with one of the Manitoba Justice lawyers. And we also have a private law firm that does some of the arbitration work as well. So those services are new. We're offering them just this year. And the good news for the vast majority of Manitobans, those services come at no fee. There's no cost to being and receiving these services. So we're very happy that we're able to offer that service. So in addition to that stream of services, we're also in cases where someone says, you know what, I really do need to exercise the need to proceed to court, and I need some help though getting through that service. I think you heard a little bit already about there really is a shortage of family law lawyers. So what we do now have is our court navigation specialist guides. Those guides, and there's two of them, both experienced deputy registrars. One of them also practiced family law for 7 years. They can navigate clients through the filing of the initial pleadings, the triage and case management system, and you get them ready for court. We don't provide legal representation, but we do provide enhanced services. And our new Sandbox initiative is we're providing enhanced services, which is a form of limited legal advice to sort of help people fill out forms and make sure that they haven't missed anything in their applications for relief from the court. So we offer that service as well. We continue to offer through our court evaluators the parenting arrangement evaluations in which we assist the court in deciding the appropriate parenting arrangements for parents when they can't agree in court. We have, again, not only the child support service, but we use our maintenance enforcement program to do enforcement pieces. As many people probably know, the maintenance enforcement program has changed dramatically since 2019. They now have discretion in appropriate cases. They can make administrative suspension of enforcement decisions that allow parties time to be able to either negotiate or proceed to court if absolutely necessary to resolve issues relating to child and spousal support. So they have many changes there. And we also have services and we help assist in parenting exchanges in concert with the Winnipeg Children's Access Agency and some other organizations. Next slide, please. So that's sort of current state. And so basically wraparound service, no need to go to court. We can pretty much do everything for our clients through the use of the FRS. But we've still got some other things we're planning on doing. And so this is sort of a bit of a big reveal in terms of where we're going. We've got, in terms of delivering specific services for particular groups, we have our new St. Boniface Access to Justice Hub that we're working on. That's in collaboration. We've got, there's obviously a facility on Provencher. We've got our Court of King's Bench office for Manitoba Justice located on the Provencher site. We've got Info Justice, we work with that particular organization now. We're sort of in these early stages of working through a new hub that hopefully we can so we can provide information to the Francophone community, newcomers to Canada that speak only in the French language. So we're going to use this as a little laboratory. We're going to have some of our staff working over there with Info Justice to provide services to make sure that our bilingual capacity within Manitoba can be enhanced to provide the service that all bilingual Canadians are looking for. We have a number of other initiatives on the go. Clare's Law, we hope to be able to have Clare's Law stood up and operating in Manitoba. Shortly, one of our leaders was a primary mover in having the Clare's Law bill introduced and having it passed. We're working on the regulations now, and we hope to have that up very soon, hopefully by mid-2025. We also have our Family Law Manitoba Digital Hub. We have a website, www.gov.mb.ca/family-law/. I'm not sure why the extra backslash is there, but however, that's the hub. We have all our information there, newly revised. So that's a one-stop shop and getting some sense of all the services that are available. And so we're continuing to look at as many initiatives as we can to provide services to the public. This process will evolve over time. We hope to get into additional services. We're always looking for new collaborative relationships. I'll give a shout out right now to CLIA. I'm very happy with the information that they produce, the seminars. We use them all the time with our staff, and just a bit about the staff so that you understand who's with the FRS. We're now up to 100 staff at the FRS in different areas. We have about 50 people working in the maintenance enforcement program, about half a dozen working for the child support service. We have upwards of 20 working on some of the initiatives, including our DV/IPV specialists who dispense assistance to the public and referrals, again, when there's DV/IPV issues. We have our court evaluators who are busy doing evaluations to assist the court in making determinations about the best interests of children in parenting arrangements, and just to dispel a few misconceptions that are floating around there. Those evaluations now are being done as quickly as 6 months. So we've got our time frames down in terms of delivering that particular service. And we have additional people providing the guidance and other assistance. So we're actually up to a unit now of 100 people providing the services. One of my interests in presenting today is the fact that we're looking for, if you happen to be a lawyer and you're wanting to provide some services to us, our new Med Services pilot program, especially if there's arbitration being offered, we do need lawyers who are prepared to join our roster. We'll be hopefully getting out a notice next week, advertising for lawyers who are prepared to provide independent legal advice so that people can enter into an arbitration agreement to permit arbitration of a family law matter. So those notices will be going out shortly. We're going to be doing that service with a little bit of assistance from our friends at Legal Aid Manitoba in terms of the financial arrangements, in terms of paying legal counsel. But we'll be creating our own roster of those individuals who wish to help with ILA. We may also be able to provide some work in terms of ILA for just summary legal advice. That's something that we may not be able to do, but we want to make sure that people have the ability to get independent legal advice on a summary basis where appropriate. So we'll be launching that initiative, and that notice will go out shortly. I'm hoping after you review the material that you'll consider joining our roster. I think that at this point, I'm going to say thank you for your time. We're certainly going to be open for questions that you may certainly want to raise, but I'll segue into Peter Kingsley, KC, who will tell you, no doubt, much about Legal Aid Manitoba and their current initiatives in service to the public.
Thank you very much, Michael. I am just going to share my materials, which I am hoping you are now seeing. Okay. And again, Legal Aid Manitoba, we are primarily a lawyer-driven process, and that is what we are. But let me start off with what legal aid is. We are created by an act, Legal Aid Manitoba Act. We are part of government, but we are not part of government. We are at arm's length from justice. So although we are part of the Department of Justice, we are controlled by a management council, and we are independent of the Minister of Justice. And our independence is vital in ensuring that the province meets their obligations under the Charter of Rights and the Constitution Act. Again, these slides will be available to you shortly after, well, within 2 to 3 weeks when the other material is available. The Legal Aid Manitoba Act requires that we provide quality legal advice to eligible low-income individuals and groups, that we administer legal aid in a cost-effective and efficient manner, and we provide advice to the Minister on legal aid generally and the specific needs of low-income individuals. And we provide these services through a mixed model of staff and private bar lawyers. This model uses both staff and private bar to deliver our services. Both compete for service and both compete to provide that service, which ensures an ongoing quality service. That means that the lawyer you may receive through legal aid may be a staff lawyer, may be a private bar lawyer, working through a contract or a certificate. Many of our staff counsel have decades of experience. Many of our private bar counsel also have decades of service. It is a wide range. Many of our lawyers have been, like myself, through every layer or every level of court in Manitoba. A number of them have been to the Supreme Court of Canada. We have 8 offices within Winnipeg, 4 offices throughout the rest of the province, located in Brandon, Dauphin, The Pas, and Thompson. And overall, we have counsel in just about every region of the province, and we have the ability to provide counsel in every region of the province. Currently, we have over 300 private bar counsel who work under either contracts or via certificates. Now, of course, not all of them are family law practitioners. That includes all of our lawyers. But we have a cadre of lawyers who've indicated that they're prepared to take legal aid certificates and assist people on a legal aid basis. The type of services that we deliver are primarily broken into 3 different forms. We have formal representation, so providing a lawyer to deal with a particular legal issue. This is when we would issue a certificate to cover a particular legal situation. We provide duty counsel. This is initial information and advice provided generally at early appearances at court. And this comes up primarily in criminal or child protection matters, where we will actually have a lawyer or a paralegal who is at court, at the first appearance court, and their job is to ensure that people have information and assistance in navigating those first few opportunities before the court. We also provide in-person or telephone advice. Usually that is provided when somebody is arrested. So if you are detained by the police or by some other agency, you can contact our Bridges on Call service, and they will connect you with a lawyer to provide you with advice that you need at that moment. One of the 2 main qualifications that we consider is whether or not you are financially eligible and whether or not your matter is one that we cover. We have fixed funding, okay, which is one of the advantage of being part of the government is that we are funded by provincial government, federal government, and the Manitoba Law Foundation. But we also have, in effect, fixed funding. Our funding is set in a budget, and we cannot exceed it without getting a guarantee from the government that we can exceed it. It's not one of those things that just automatically flows. This means that we simply cannot represent everyone. Like most legal aid plans across the country, we rely on the low income cutoff to determine who gets free legal aid and who is eligible for what we call our agreement to pay program. The income is based on gross income, so it is before deductions, and we look at your gross income from employment or other sources. We also look at what assets are readily available to pay for a lawyer. We consider your family size, and we take into account where custody is shared 50-50 between parents. So we may have a family unit of one adult with 2 children shared 50% of the time, or we may have a family unit of 3 people. And obviously, depending on how we determine that, that determines what the cutoffs are that we can offer services for. There is no difference between services provided for those getting free legal aid and those getting the agreement to pay. The issue is that under the agreement to pay program, the individual is effectively reimbursing legal aid for their costs. So you are getting a lawyer, but you are getting them at the legal aid rate, whatever we would pay that lawyer and the reasonable expenses belonging to that. So let's talk specifically about what areas of coverage that we have for family law. And again, we are looking at a limited range of things. Michael sort of gave you some ideas that there are different agencies out there, and by and large, we try to avoid duplicating services wherever we can. But we do recognize that there are some matters which do require the assistance of a lawyer with you in court. At all times, when we look at a family law matter, we will always consider, would a reasonable person of modest means pay a lawyer privately to get that sort of benefit or that outcome that the individual is seeking. So where there is no pre-existing order or agreement, where you haven't got that initial court order, then we will assist people in order to get decision-making responsibility, and we used to call that custody, or to seek parenting time, again, what used to be called access, where somebody is looking for child support, where spousal support, where the spouse has had no real independent income during the lifetime of the marriage or a substantially large part of the marriage. In effect, where a spouse is wholly dependent. Now, again, this doesn't mean that a spouse may not be eligible for spousal support if legal aid doesn't appoint. It just means that given the cost of providing counsel, we will do basically a cost-benefit analysis, and we will determine whether or not it is justified to expend the effort and the cost of providing counsel for somebody who is going to get a relatively small amount of spousal support. That doesn't mean, as I said, that it's not available. It just means that we're not in a position to provide that service given our limited resources. We will also assist people to get a declaration of parentage if that is required to determine child support. So where the identity of the father is unknown or unproven, or where the father is unwilling to be named as the parent, we will assist in having that put through the courts. Where there is in existence a prior order or a final order, we will assist in variations where the order is dated, where it's old, and where there are significant changes in the circumstances. So again, where there has been a real change in the relationship with the parties or the children. Where parenting time is denied or seriously restricted, contrary to a valid court order. We will also assist in decision-making responsibility or parenting time where there are issues with that, And there's evidence that the physical or psychological well-being of a child is at risk. And again, this will be evaluated by the area director to determine whether or not there is a legal basis for this, and whether the outcome is going to be justified by the cost of counsel. Obviously, where there are physical or psychological well-being children, that's not a particularly difficult bar to reach, but it is something that we do look at to ensure that this is very much that is justified by the work done. We will assist parties if they are seeking a divorce, but we only assist where the parties have been separated for a year. We also will defend individuals who are dealing with child support arrears where there is a reasonable likelihood of success, or a grandparent seeking a contact order where the grandparent can show a strong relationship to the child. Where guardianship is contested and there is a likelihood of success. Also, we will assist with adoption proceedings are opposed. The applicant can show that there's a reasonable likelihood they would be granted decision-making responsibility or parenting time. And finally, we will assist in defending the setting aside, so defending against someone setting aside, or we will assist people who are applying to set aside a protection order that has been granted by the court. That only applies to parties who were in a relationship. It doesn't apply to people who were neighbors or something like that. What we don't cover generally are things like property division. We will assist people who are negotiating, okay, part of the property division as part of their overall family separation. But Legal Aid Manitoba simply cannot provide counsel solely for the issue of property division and working out who is going to get what parts of the house or what's going to happen to it. We cannot assist on divorces where the applicant alleges cruelty or infidelity. Again, the reason for that is that it's a very high bar to meet. It's something that actually has to be litigated and argued in court. It's much simpler to simply wait the 1 year, and then it can't be challenged. As long as the parties have been together or apart for that through a 1 year period, then it is relatively simple to move through. Sorry, I jumped there. Seeking a protection order. If you are looking for a protection order, you can get that through the courts directly. You do not need a lawyer to get a protection order, or you can contact other agencies such as FRS who may be able to assist you in getting a protection order. We also will not assist people in setting aside a protection order which they sought. We will assist people to defend against them being set aside. We will assist people who are the subject of a protection order, who they can demonstrate that the protection order shouldn't have been granted. But we cannot assist people. We don't have the funding to assist people in setting aside their own protection orders. We will not assist, similar to the property issues, where somebody is seeking sole occupancy or a prevention order through the various acts. We are not able to provide that. Legal Aid Manitoba also does not assist people, even if they have a certificate, in the cost of drug testing, supervised access to areas, or counseling. Having said all of that, we do have a fairly wide and robust area of coverage for most family law matters. And we generally recognize that we want people to move through this process as easily as possible with as little trauma as possible. And one of the things that unfortunately comes out of family law there is generally a lot of emotion involved in this. And it's really important that when you are meeting with your lawyer or you are meeting with the advocate that you're going to be dealing with, any lawyer who is working under a legal aid certificate is not appointed to simply be the mouthpiece of the client. They're not simply there to do whatever the client asks. They have legal obligations both to Legal Aid Manitoba and to the courts. The first one is that counsel must attempt to resolve all matters through negotiations first. Even if whether you have a lawyer or whether you're working with FRS or anything else, your starting point is always going to be sitting down and trying to work through this without having to involve the courts. And only if all other attempts fail and there's a likelihood of success will counsel be authorized to go to trial. There is no guarantee when you have a legal aid certificate that your matter will receive trial authorization. Where there is good arguments, where it is a reasonable legal option to go to trial, that authorization will be granted. But it's not an automatic. And it's really important, again, that individuals understand lawyers are trying to come to a resolution. That is their job, and they are required both by the courts and by legal aid to make honest and real efforts to cooperate with the other side to come to that resolution. Lawyers also must be honest with the court and not withhold information which the court would deem important. So it's very important that you understand the lawyer has a duty to treat the court with candor and to be as forthright and honest with them as much as possible. Counsel ultimately have an obligation to explain the process to the client and explain the options within the law. So again, one of the things that we're sort of talking about, we've seen this whole gamut from going with, and we jump to questions, but we've seen this whole gamut of assistance for those who are without representation. We've seen people who are looking for assistance, maybe with an advocate or somebody who can assist them, or who, again, using the family resolution services models where they can negotiate something with the other party. All of these things are there and available in the hopes that they will become the best option for them. Where a lawyer is ultimately required, Legal Aid Manitoba is there. We're happy to provide counsel. But even then, lawyers are going to be working with you to try and come up with, as much as possible, a resolution without having to go to court. If ultimately that's the outcome, that's going to have to be the outcome. But the reality is that family law works generally best where the parties can come to a mutually understandable and mutually agreeable agreement. Now, there are some questions, I believe, in the question answer. One individual did ask about a divorce. It was a specific question about a specific legal issue as to whether parts of the separation agreement was included. We can't answer specific legal questions, but you might wish to speak either to FRS or to CLIA, who may be able to assist you with that specific question. For those who are asking about the slide presentation, yes, absolutely. Slide presentations, both Michael's presentation and mine, will be available with the recording of the material. An individual experienced with a party who using a lawyer who does do legal aid, but their office is not accessible for disabled people. We do, when we take a legal aid application, ask as to whether there are access issues. In the hopes that counsel will let us know that maybe their office is not accessible and they're not in a position to take a certificate. counsel do have an opportunity to review matters before they take it on. If you can't access the lawyer, we will attempt to place you with a new lawyer. As you've heard, one of the downsides, and then again, we raise this to the bar in general, we are looking for counsel who are able to take legal aid cases and may be able to assist. The more lawyers who are able to assist clients, the easier it is. And obviously having a accessible office is very important. All Legal Aid Manitoba offices are accessible, but that's not always the case with every single lawyer in the province. Attorney-client privilege applies to legal aid, but there are factors that that sort of go beyond that. One of them is that if you are on legal aid and your financial circumstances change, you are required to tell legal aid and your lawyer is required to tell legal aid. So it's, although there is that solicitor-client privilege, and it certainly does extend, and discussions with legal aid are subject to solicitor-client privilege, that doesn't necessarily mean, as an example, if you tell your lawyer one thing and then tell the court the exact opposite, while counsel can't say they're lying, they certainly can't rely on the answer that you've given court. Counsel are obligated to the court not to lie to the court and not to allow a lie to go forward. So it can lead to some very difficult questions. In regards to whether a certificate is for divorce, are you required to seek legal aid approval to file a petition with the court? No, because that would ultimately be part and parcel of it. But counsel would be required to answer if they wanted to go to trial for some reason. That is something that they would have to request. Are there any questions for FRS or okay, sorry, another one. Can a lawyer choose the type of case he is willing to take? Absolutely. Legal Aid has, as part of their panel, about 15 different options as to what you can take and what you can't take. And any counsel taking legal aid also can are given the option of taking an individual case. So even if you say, I'm willing to take all family law cases, you still have the option to accept or decline any case that is offered to you. What we do anticipate is that you will, if you take on the case, that you will complete the matter. Now, having said that, Michael also commented about the need for lawyers for FRS to provide independent legal advice. I'd like to bounce that back to Michael to explain perhaps what they're looking for specifically with that.
Sure. We have an initiative that really requires people for entering into arbitration under the Arbitration Act. If you're going to do a family arbitration, you need independent legal advice so that you understand your rights and obligations under that act. So we're looking for lawyers who can provide between 3 and 5 hours of independent legal advice to someone who's thinking about entering into a mediation arbitration that may result in an actual arbitration before an arbitrator. And so that's something that we're most anxious to be able to deliver that service. But the catch is, or the prerequisite is, if you want to do arbitration, you need that independent legal advice. And we're prepared to do that as part of our initiative for no fee to the client. So, but we will be paying for legal counsel to be able to provide that independent legal advice. And again, we're looking at potentially 3 to 5 hours of time, so potentially $300 to $500 to provide that independent legal advice to a client to make sure that they go into an arbitration knowing and appreciating the consequences of such a process, because there is a consequence to it should you go through the process. The arbitrators, the family award certainly is enforceable in most circumstances. And so you need to understand that it's not the same as a court proceeding, but the result can be an enforceable decision that has a very limited ability to be appealed. So again, allowing that opportunity. And we are certainly looking for lawyers who are prepared to provide that service on behalf of our clients who wish to do arbitration. And I think I saw a question pop up about flat fee. I mean, as we're just launching this now, I can say I think with some degree of certainty that we'll probably be offering. We're using the $100 per hour to sort of get some sense as to the hourly rate, but likely when we make the announcement, it will be for a discrete block fee, and that block fee will be somewhere between $300 and $500, probably on the higher end than the lower end. So likely at about $500 to provide that ILA. And again, we may be able to also offer additional ILA to assist people during a process. They're not going to be providing representation, but there can be situations where ILA is required for summary legal advice on an issue that may arise either prior to or during an arbitration, or we may be seeking ILA assistance for clients who've negotiated the terms of an agreement, and what they're looking for is ILA on some final issues related to a property division, for example, like a pension or some other matter, to make sure that the order or agreement is drafted so that it's actually enforceable. No one wants the parties to have gone through a process and walk out of it without an enforceable agreement or order. So we're looking for that as well. So the particulars will be out hopefully in the next 5 to 10 business days, and hopefully you'll consider, if you're legal counsel, signing up for that particular roster, and we'll be using our friends at Legal Aid just to assist us with the financial piece, as we're not configured to provide the kind of business support, the financial matters that are required to actually administer such a program. So again, we rely on our friends at LAM, and quite frankly, we rely on a whole constellation of different groups within the city. Not one service can provide everything. LAM can't provide everything that people need. FRS can't provide everything. We have other partners around the province of Manitoba that can provide the services. It just really requires someone to be the quarterback, to be able to find the resources that people need. That's what the FRS loves to do, find resources for people. It doesn't matter to us whether we deliver the service, as long as people find a way to get the services that they need, and it can be delivered by any group, non-government organization in Manitoba. We just want people to get the services that they need.
Thank you, Michael. Again, questions as to how that would break up. That might be something that would be better dealt with as to how that generally works. As I said, or as Mr. Michael said, it's going to be one of those things that once FRS puts out their guidelines, Legal Aid Manitoba will be assisting in the actual delivery of that, and we will be working it. Are there any other questions? Beyond that? Okay. Absence of that, I'm just going to check our chat to make sure that we haven't missed anything. And the question. Okay. I think that pretty much covers it in the absence of any further questions. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank my fellow panel members for their generous donation of their time and their knowledge. We would also like to thank you, our audience, for joining us today. I hope that you, like myself, found it both informative and hopefully a little bit entertaining. Again, a reminder, today's presentation has been recorded, will be posted on MB Access to Justice. Again, one word, mbaccesstojustice.ca in 2 to 3 weeks. Thank you. Merci, miigwech, et bonne journée.